such time, we will have our timer, and our vice chairman will turn the 8 time over. And when that time runs out, it's time to wrap it up. Okay? And make sure that you sign in. And when you stand up, state your name, your address, and where you're from real clearly so we can record it. With that being said, we'll move right into committee reports. So the first thing is reinstatement.
Yes, Mr. President. Board members, whereas the following students were expelled by the Board of Education. John Doe 043098 on May 21st, 2013 for violation of the state schools legislation. Revised section 13111. Jane Doe 092897 on May 21st, 2013 for violation of the safe schools legislation. Revised section 13111. John Doe 071296 on May 21st, 2013 for violation of safe schools legislation. Revised section 13111. John Doe 112295 on May 21st, 2013 for violation of the state schools legislation. Revised section 13111. John Doe 090897 on May 21st, 2013 for violation of the weapons legislation, section 13112. John Doe 122398 on May 21st, 2013 for violation of the weapons legislation, section 13112. John Doe 061297 on June 18, 2013 for violation of the weapons legislation, section 13112. And whereas Muskegon Public Schools has instituted a process as required by state law and local policy for requesting reinstatement, and whereas the above listed students have followed the process and have met various provisions necessary for reinstatement, and whereas board members agree it would not be detrimental to the safety of the other students to restore the above listed students to same status. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education restores John Doe 043098, Jane Doe 092897, John Doe 071296, John Doe 112295, John Doe 090897, John Doe 122398, and John Doe 061297 to student status, and that they be eligible for educational services with an understanding that the superintendent and or his designee may oversee an appropriate educational placement and will monitor their performance. This is respectfully submitted by me, sir, to recommend adoption.
Support.
We have support. Are there any questions or comments regarding the reading of the resolution? Hearing none, Secretary call roll.
Bruce.
Aye.
Larson.
Aye.
Marks.
Aye.
Mahalski. Aye. Oaks.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Churchwell.
Aye.
They are reinstated.
Schools and teachers.
Okay, Mr. President, we have 2 items tonight. First up, board members, your Committee on Schools and Teachers recommends adoption of the attached personnel actions and recommendations for May 2014. This is signed by our committee, and I recommend its adoption.
Support.
So support. Are there any questions or comments regarding the reading of the resolution? Hearing none, Secretary call roll.
Bruce.
Aye.
Larson.
Aye.
Marks. Aye. Mahalski. Aye. Oaks.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Churchwell.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, next up, Mr. President, we have a field trip. Board members, your Committee on Schools and Teachers recommends adoption of the following resolution. Whereas a field trip request has been received for students from the 5th and 6th grade ESL to travel to Grand Valley State University on Tuesday, May 20th. Hope they had a good trip. And whereas board members have reviewed this request and have no objections, now therefore be it resolved that this field trip request is hereby approved by the Board of Education of the public schools in the city of Muskegon. This is signed by a committee, and we're glad they went on the trip.
A reminder that that committee met last Tuesday.
Yes, it did.
To review that trip.
Yes, we did approve it last week.
Or
We have a support of any questions or comments regarding the resolution. Hearing none, Secretary call roll.
Bruce.
Aye.
Larson.
Aye.
Marks.
Aye.
Mahalski, aye. Oaks.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Churchwell.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Ways and Means, Bruce.
Yes. Or Larson. Or do you want? All right. Yes, sir. Board members, your Committee on Ways and Means recommends adoption of the following resolution. Whereas Section 624 of the Revised School Code, as amended, requires the Intermediate School Board to submit its proposed budget not later than May 1st of each year to the Board of each constituent district for review. And whereas not later than June 1 of each year, the Board of each constituent district shall review the proposed intermediate school district budget, shall adopt a board resolution expressing its support for or disapproval of the proposed intermediate school district budget, and shall submit to the intermediate school board any specific objections and proposed changes the constituent district board has to the budget. And whereas the Muskegon Area Intermediate School District delivered its proposed general fund operating budget for the 2013-2014 school year to each local district board representative and superintendent on Monday, April 14, 2014 for review. And the MAISD Board of Education held a budget review on Tuesday, April 29, 2014 in the Muskegon Area Intermediate School District, Lake Michigan Conference Room at 630 Harvey Street, Muskegon, Michigan. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Public Schools of the City of Muskegon has received and reviewed the proposed Intermediate School District General Fund operating budget for the 2014-2015 school year in accordance with Section 624 of the Revised School Code, as amended, and by the adoption of this resolution expresses its support for the proposed MAISD budget. Be it further resolved that the Secretary of the Muskegon Board of Education of her or her designee shall forward a copy of this resolution to the Intermediate School Board or its superintendent no later than June 1, 2014. Be it further resolved that all resolutions insofar as they conflict with this resolution be and the same are hereby rescinded. This is respectfully submitted by our committee and I recommend its adoption. Support.
We have support. Are there any comments or questions regarding the reading of the resolution? Hearing none, Secretary call roll.
Bruce.
Aye.
Larson.
Aye.
Marks.
Aye.
Mahalski, aye. Oaks.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Churchwell.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Board members, your Committee on Ways and Means recommends adoption of the following resolution. Whereas bids for the provision of student transportation services for the district were received at 2 p.m. on Wednesday, March 12, 2014. And whereas bids were received from the NIEA bus drivers of Muskegon Public Schools, Durham School Services of Warrenville, Illinois, First Student of Grosse Pointe, Michigan, and Dean Transportation of Lansing, Michigan. And whereas administration has reviewed the bids received and is recommending award to Dean Transportation of Lansing, Michigan. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Public Schools of the City of Muskegon does hereby award the bid for the provision of student transportation services for the district to Dean Transportation of Lansing, Michigan, based on their pupil transportation services proposal pricing form, which is attached. This is respectfully submitted by our committee, and I recommend its adoption.
Or
We have support. Are there any questions or comments regarding the reading of the resolution? Hearing none, Secretary call roll.
Bruce.
Aye.
Larson.
Aye.
Marks.
Aye.
Mahalski, aye. Oaks.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Churchwell.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Board members, your Committee on Ways and Means recommends adoption of the following resolution. Whereas proposals for copiers for the district were received at 2 p.m. on Tuesday, April 29, 2014, and whereas the tabulation of proposals received is attached. Now therefore be it resolved that the bid of Michigan Office Solutions Xerox of Grand Rapids, Michigan,
in the base bid amount of $263,569 is accepted for the purchase of copiers for the district. This is signed by all members of our committee, and I recommend its adoption.
Support.
There's been support. Are there any questions or comments regarding the reading of the resolution? Hearing none, Secretary, call the roll.
Bruce.
Aye.
Larson.
Aye.
Marks.
Aye.
Mahalski, aye. Oaks.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Churchwell.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And finally, Mr. President, board members, your Committee on Ways and Means respectfully reports that the attached report of vendor payments dated February has been examined and approved by the business manager, and therefore ratification of said payments is recommended. This is signed by all members of our committee, and I recommend its adoption.
Support.
So support. Any questions or comments regarding the reading of the resolution?
February?
I missed it.
March.
May?
No, it should.
April.
It should be April.
April.
It should be April, right.
I'll do
Let's put February bills were cheap.
No, heating bills.
Okay, April.
Yeah, right.
Not that April was cheap, better than February.
We'll let the record stand and reflect that it's April. And we did have support. Are there any other questions or comments regarding the reading of the resolution? Hearing none, Secretary, call the roll.
Bruce.
Aye.
Larson.
Aye.
Marks.
Aye.
Mahalski, aye. Oaks.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Churchwell.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All righty.
Treasurer Government.
Payment bills. Now, the report of the Secretary.
I have no report.
Secretary reports no report. The Madam Treasurer.
Yes, Mr. President. The Treasurer's report for Muskegon Public Schools summary of all funds reported. Revenues and expenditures for the month ending April 30, 2014. Board meeting of May 2014. Revenue, budget 2013-2014, $58,705,940. Monthly, revenue monthly, $4,378,437. Year to date, $37,751,032. Balance, 2013-2014, $20,954. $20,954,908. Year to date percent, 64.31. Expenditures for the budget would be $58,124,665. Monthly, $7,689,876. Year to date, $43,891,814. Balance, $14,232,851. Year to date percent, 75.51%. Surplus or deficit. Budget, $581,275. Monthly, negative $3,311,439. And year to date, negative $6,140,783, sir.
Thank you, Madam Treasurer. Any other questions or comments regarding the report? Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you. On my superintendent's report, first of all, not on the list, I would like to thank the NIEA leadership and their members. Obviously, this has not been an exciting or a fun time to go through the privatization that's taken place here tonight, but I would like to thank them for allowing myself, Betty, and Sam to have constant dialogue, open doors, and allow us the opportunity to work together and at least keep people informed through the process. And even though it wasn't the process that obviously NIEA leadership and a lot of our employees had hoped for, I do thank you for your professionalism and working with us on a day-to-day basis. Moving on to my written report, a reminder to everybody, we're having our 139th graduating class of Muskegon High School a week from tomorrow at 7 p.m. at the L.C. Walker Arena. Once again, it's the event of 13 years of hard work by young people in our community, and it is always a very fun, entertaining, many emotions that take place there. Please come join us to honor our young men and women who are stepping off from one point with us and then taking a larger step into the bigger world, to which we hope that we have done the job that we needed to do to prepare them for that. Moving on, my legislative update. A few things that I shared with you yesterday, board, but for the community, there was the May revenue consensus meeting down in the Capitol on Thursday of last week. What they do is they look at the general fund, state general fund, and the school state aid fund in the state of Michigan to determine where they project money to finish this year. And obviously the state fiscal budget starts October 1, where ours is in July to June. And they are predicting that the school state aid fund for next year will be about $78.5 million less than they had projected back in January. And so when they're talking about what money to pay and give to schools for the 14-15 school year, since January we've been discussing and having lots of dialogue between numerous associations and the legislature, and now with 6 weeks to go, they're going to have to retool that and pare it back because they believe they're going to have less money to spend. So that was one of the pieces on legislation. Also, there's a Senate Bill 817. Right now we are mandated to annually evaluate all of our teachers. 25% of their evaluation is on their student growth model. It was to move to 40% next year. It looks like this new Senate Bill 817, which has a companion bill in the House, would move that 40% number not to go into play until the 17-18 year. The reason being, the state of Michigan 3 years ago told us they had 2 or 3 or 4 models they were looking at for models for all districts to use, and that before the end of this current year, they would tell everybody which model to pick, or the state was going to just choose one and then tell every district to use that. They still haven't decided what to do, and so when there's not a model chose, they have decided that obviously they have to extend out that timeline on that percentage because there's a lack of consistency in the tools that can be implemented by any of the 578 public school systems in Michigan and the 200 plus charter schools. So that's a little bit on legislative. Also, there was a classroom and kids budget proposal presented by superintendents and ISDs around the state that would take some of the funding called categoricals, which are a lot of one-year annual things, although they change it and move it around depending on what the hot topic is. We had asked that they would just take that funding and roll it in across the foundation allowance to all districts for all kids instead of predicting winners and losers, because depending on which type of program they would choose, it could benefit wealthier districts. It could benefit districts, obviously, with a more challenging population. So some years we could be a winner, but some years we could be a loser. We wanted it to be fair and equitable for all districts across the state, and we were told that that's not something that the state legislature wants to do. So
They don't want to be fair to everybody.
that's their decision, is they're going to pick and choose how they do with some of their funding. Next thing was a Michigan tax. The former Department of Treasury for the state of Michigan went back and looked at our state tax policies all the way back since the 1970s, but he really looked at what has happened since Proposal A went into effect in 1994, changed how we pay for our property tax, but it also then changes how we fund public school systems. And one of the things it noticed is that we have continued and have not kept up the pace of taxation like many other states around the United States, and that right now we are currently the 49th in the country out of 51 because they consider Washington, D.C. as a area. So people have continued to pay higher taxes, which then turns around and then allows the state of Michigan to give money back to cities, municipalities, for people like firemen. We have a police officer in the back, school employees and the such, municipality workers, snow plowers, MDOT workers, people who work at our prison systems would fund those positions. Since we haven't kept up with the rate of inflation, nor have we kept up with the state of Michigan, that is why we continue to have reductions in money, and then obviously we have to reduce positions and do things, unfortunately, even like some of the things that we had to do tonight with privatization of our busing. The last thing and the interesting piece is, one of the pieces on this report says that if we would have kept up with our policies prior, we'd have $1.9 billion a year more for public education in the state of Michigan. I showed the board yesterday, between local school systems right now and charter schools in the state of Michigan, we have approximately 1,522,600 students who are receiving state aid from all of our taxes. If we had continued to tax and had received that extra $1.9 billion on an annual basis, and I need to make sure everybody understands that's an annual, not a one-time, then when you divide all the students by $1.9 billion, it's about $1,247 more per student, no matter where you live in the state of Michigan. And for Muskegon Public Schools with approximately 4,500 students, we would get more per year, $5,615,000 and some change. So as we look at a $2.6 million deficit this year, with $1 million of that being an ongoing carryover from a year ago, instead of talking about programs we're ending, people were laying off, we would be talking about program expansion and other opportunities. So, again, as this report said, you can have less taxes, but you also get less services, and those services are whether you call it from school systems, prison system, your local counties and municipalities. So that is what this gentleman was talking about in this piece. And then my last piece is we have a grant for 21st Century, our Cohort F grant. We submitted and we were not a successful applicant. So at June 30th of this year, we will no longer have a 21st Century program at Muskegon High School, at Muskegon Middle School, at MCEC, at Lakeside Elementary, and we have been partnering with Reese Puffer High School over the last few years. We will continue, though, with 4 more years of funding starting July 1 for a 21st Century program at Moon, Oakview, Marquette, and Nelson. 21st Century dollars are all federally funded dollars. It's a competitive grant. Our people had a very good grant put in, but obviously it goes on a point scale. And I will tell you that even looking at to increase, we were also looking to partner with a school in Muskegon Heights to increase our points because of the demographics of Muskegon Heights, and that still wasn't enough to put us over to continue to receive that funding. So we're very disappointed. It will stay in place through the end of June, but then we will have to obviously start thinking about what other after-school activities that we've had before. We've done partnered with the Y before. We partnered with United Way, and obviously an opportunity to have more discussions with the new Boys and Girls Club Committee that I sit on as we talk about options for where that could potentially be housed here in our district. And with that, I conclude my report.
Thank you. Any comments? Okay. Any other pertinent business? If there's no other pertinent business, we're at the point in time where we will entertain questions from the floor. Remember, if you have a question to the board, to stand and state your name and address clearly. And once you start talking, our 3-minute or age timer will be turned over, and when it's finished, then you have to wind down what you're talking about. If there's no...
Yeah, my name is Faith Gruesbeck. I live at 775 Washington in Muskegon. My son is a freshman at Muskegon High, and I've been here before to talk about school policies that treat our students like criminals. And today I came to talk about a school policy that treats parents like criminals. I was kind of surprised to find out my son, his book bag was stolen earlier in the year, and he owed $137 to replace the books that were stolen. He wanted to go to prom with his girlfriend, even though he's a freshman. They said he couldn't buy a prom ticket until he paid for the books. So I sent him to school with a check, he came back and said there is a school policy against accepting checks. He was told by an administrator that he could come in with a money order. So he came in with a money order. I went, I had to go to the bank. I got a money order. He came with a money order and then was told that it's a district-wide policy not to accept anything but cash. And I find that really strange because it's very common in other schools to accept checks. A money order as good as cash. I don't understand a person who was sitting there at the desk at the front office told me that I could cancel a money order. I'm not really sure how I would go about canceling a money order once I've written it out and given it to somebody. So not only is it offensive, it's like saying that, we're not honest people that would just pay our bills. But it's also really inconvenient. I had to make several trips, including going to the office in person when I had sent my son there twice. And it's also not really safe to send your kid with $137 in cash to go to school. I mean, I wouldn't even feel safe walking around with large amounts of cash on me. So I think this is just another example of how policies exist that parents don't really have any say in, don't have any knowledge in. I asked for a copy of the policy. Nobody knew where it was written. And I've since spoken to other parents in the district who said that they've written checks many times. So clearly it isn't enforced, equally across the board. So I'm wondering, why we have this policy, where it is, and why aren't parents informed of it, and is there a way to change it? Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. Very good. You can call the superintendent.
If you stick around,
Yeah, he'll talk to you.
absolutely.
I'm not really interested in speaking to you alone, but maybe with a group of people.
Good. Betty Savage, our HR director, and I would be more than happy.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Dan Mills, and I can't remember if I've ever been to a Board of Education meeting before, but I wanted to be here tonight. And so I did what I generally do. I got on the internet, to see the details. And so I found, Board of Education website. Everybody's got a website. It used to be a kind of a novelty 20 years ago, but now you kind of expect that sort of thing, matter of fact. And I saw the familiar logo, Muskegon, public schools. I went to Muskegon. And so then I wanted to see what's been going on here, and so I took the link for minutes of the meetings, and I didn't see any except for January this year. And I clicked the link for agendas, because that's around the front page, agendas, and again, nothing for this year. Lots of them from last year, and so I was just wondering, if it ain't documented, it doesn't happen. You guys have been having meetings, right? Anyway, that's all. I know you're all busy doing stuff, and I don't have any idea. I don't want to come down here just to complain. But there's got to be an answer to that one. How come the website is so out of date? Thanks.
Thanks for sharing and pointing that out. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, do we have any announcements?
I have an announcement I'd like to share. I attended Oakview Elementary's National Elementary Honor Society. It was yesterday, I believe, and it was spectacular. It was the first time that I had ever attended an induction for the students at the elementary level, and it basically, it was awesome. I'm lost for words in regards to how the event turned out, and it was presented in the same fashion that we would present at the high school level. And I just think that that's huge. We're setting high expectations for our students, not just at the high school level, but as early as the elementary level. So I just want to commend Lakeisha Loudermill and her staff over at Oakview.
Thank you.
What other, that's not the only school that has that, right? Are there
I'm not
a few
sure.
other-
Moon just had theirs also.
Okay, and then is there another one that's going to be doing that next year?
Lakeside did theirs also.
Oh, okay. It's nice to know that those are all in the schools.
And there are requirements that they have for it,
Right.
just like we have at the high school. And they are making, well, part of the requirements are that the students are community involved. And I think that that's huge. They're starting mentors. The students will be mentoring other students in that building. So it's just, I think that it's a great thing to have at the elementary level.
Cool.
And to extend that thinking, that the high school kids will be working with those NHS students so that there's a progression, so that there's an understanding that you're part of the greater good, that we want them in NHS and we want to double our NHS students. And it's all, we've been talking to principals, so thank you for mentioning it, 'cause I know the elementary principals will be very thankful. So.
Could you let them know who you are?
Brad Perkins, the high school principal.
Any other announcements?
Memorial Day Parade, the bands will be marching, both the downtown parade and then the Lakeside Parade on Memorial Day. So come on out and cheer for the bands.
Weather's supposed to be gorgeous.
Yeah.
If there's no other announcements, we stand adjourned. Thanks for coming. Keep coming back.